The first few minutes reveal a problem judges see constantly in protection order hearings. Both sides arrive focused on credibility rather than immediate safety.
So I tend to call things out when I see them, and that makes people uncomfortable. So my testimony is, we met up in August. I learned of her past charge of anti-stalking and DV. It made me nervous because I have a prior from 25 years ago that I turned my life around and became a social worker and rebuilt my life and my character. And that's been my whole existence. If you Googled me, is me working as a public servant, helping others in vulnerable populations. And so on the 20th, I want to make sure I keep it all. I reached out to her on April 22nd and told her I was finally selling my home. And she said, do you need any help moving since you have this connective tissue disorder that's got you on disability? I said, I'm looking for friendship. Yeah, I would love your help. I don't have any support other than my realtor. That was on April 22nd. I hung out with her a few times in May. I learned that she overdrafted her account. I felt bad for her. I gave her $300 to get her account in the right. And I said, it's okay, Jonna, we all go through hard times. I took her out to eat. I always paid because she said, I don't have money in my budget to go out to eat. I invited her to a concert. We went to a local concert together. I was having bad anxiety one night, and she offered me to stay the night at her house just as a friend of comfort, and I did. When I moved out of my home, I sold a very nice home, and I'm currently staying in my camper until I can figure out where I want to be next. All these things, it's like when I learned about her old charges and I found 5 different aliases, and she showed me 4 different engagement rings in a matter of a week hanging out with her, it started making me nervous. Like maybe she was just after me because I just sold a home and made a profit. Because there's been other issues that I've seen like this. And so when she invited me on, like the date is wrong on the roommate's testimony. That event happened on May 25th. I was on Vashon Island staying in an Airbnb the 23rd and the 24th. Mm-hmm. I got off of Vashon Island with a voicemail from Jonna inviting me over to be friends. She's sorry she hurt my feelings. She's sorry she offended me. Invited me over to her home and invited me to go to her hometown, which is in Menlo. I'd never been. I'm from Ohio. And we drove down to Menlo, and on that before we got in the car, I said, I'm nervous. I don't want to argue with you. I don't want to have no problems. And she goes, I'm sorry, Cal. It was me. I'll be sensitive to your emotional state and your anxiety. We get in the car. We get down to Menlo.
Oh, I'm sorry. You drove from here to
the Bay Area? She invited me to her home. I parked my truck in front of her.
In the Bay Area?
Excuse me, the Bay.
Menlo, California?
No, Menlo. Minelo, it's a little town out by PL, I think. I don't know. It's Lewis County.
Okay.
Yeah, no, just to drive down to a cemetery local about an hour away.
All right.
I like old cemeteries, and that's why she invited me, so I could see the dates on the headstones. That's how I got in her car that day, is what I'm trying to explain. I don't want to confuse this. I'm sorry. I have ADHD, so I want to make sure I keep it all straight. At the cemetery, I gave her private time with her family, but then I suddenly got a gut feeling because I was so far away from the car. I don't know her that well. She could leave me out here and I don't have any phone service. So I get back in the car and she started saying how we were going to drive by her mom's house and her mom doesn't like her. And I said, your mom's sitting outside. I'm not comfortable driving by your mom's house. I'm trying to explain to you that there's some stalker behavior. She's claiming she's talked to an ex of mine. I seen the documents in the court thing this morning. There's no ex of mine here. I have an ex-wife that I divorced in April of 23. We are on good terms. We came here from Ohio together. Any ex-girlfriends I have, I'm on speaking terms with. And the one person I know she tried to reach out to contacted me and said she's very concerned because this woman's trying to paint a case. And she said, I played along with her. And I said, well, I think I've read your messages. And she goes, Cal, I'm worried that this woman, there's something wrong with her. She worked at Department of Corrections with me, the person I think that she's claiming she has text messages with. So when I look at all this situation, and I did get advice from my attorney, he said, this is civil, not criminal. Just go in and tell your testimony. Tell the 5 aliases. Mention the Cottonwood County case of false imprisonment. She held somebody against their will, a partner that she was engaged to, and the court records that say this. And she is currently under the DV MRT program. I'm transparent. She knew I had another case and it was dismissed for me to do that same DV MRT class because there was no evidence that I did what was the other allegation. She heard about this and I feel like she's jumping on something. When I was in her home that day, her roommate, I was the one that asked the roommate to come downstairs for the witness. And then Jonna ran up the stairs and said she was scared of me. I said, is a liar. There's something wrong with her. She just had me in her car. She drove 80 miles an hour and told me to get out. I wanted to get out on the I-5 somewhere between Chehalis and Centralia. When I called the police, as soon as I got to her house, I called the Thurston County Sheriff and they said it didn't happen in Thurston County. What county? I said, I don't know. I got to look it up on a map. It's either Mason or it's Lewis. He said, well, where does she live? I said, 237 Sherman. He said, that would be Olympia Police. We will have them call you back. Olympia Police called me back that day, the 25th it happened. I told them everything. I called my attorney. I called my diversion officer immediately. They all said, Cal, you did not violate. The police said I should file an anti-stalking order because she had called 2 times before that on me while we were friends. It was like she was trying to set me up, is how it feels, because the only altercation was in her car. And the part where she says I knocked her phone out of her hand, her phone sits in a phone thing up on her dash and it falls out all the time. I've seen it happen several times as she was driving me around. Because of my anxiety, I don't drive a lot.
The hearing exposes the real battleground, competing stories about fear. Both sides want the court to believe they were the vulnerable person in the relationship. The petitioner attempts to strengthen that position by introducing third parties, prior allegations, and outside warnings.
And as I said, I'm out on state disability right now from my state public service job because my nerves are shot. I have dysautonomia and I've just seen a lot in my career. And so I cry a lot. And that makes people uncomfortable when I cry. And then they think I'm crazy. And I'm not crazy. I don't understand the lies. I've lived a life of integrity since my mistake in 2000. You could read the judge's letter from that case. I have turned my life around. And people now, I feel like this woman knows I've got a little bit of money. And so no police officer would take her case. They said it's not DV because I only hung out with her. And when she says I have her back gate key combination, it was because I hung a tarp for her in front of her trash cans. I was doing service goodness for her, with her as a friend. And she helped me move. So me choosing to not date her because it made me uncomfortable that she was stalking her mom's home. That's why the argument happened. I said, you're driving by your mother's and she's asked you to not talk to her. I'm not comfortable being in this car. I want to go home. And then she took me down several country roads and it took 5 hours to get home from Chehalis. And she didn't take the most direct route to her house to get me out of her car. She drove all the way around to Cooper Point and back some back roads. I said, what are you doing? Please let me out of your car. And as soon as I started to get out, I said, can I have my belongings in your house? And it's not clothing like she states. It's these expensive glass balls that when I moved, I didn't want to put them in my storage unit. And she said she'd hold them for me. I'm not asking for anything back, sir. I just know I'm never going to contact this woman again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Wesley?
My goodness gracious. Where do I even begin? Goodness. Well, we got sworn in, so at least someone will be telling the truth here. My case right now has an attorney in Minnesota. That was a false allegation. I am currently suing the state of Minnesota, and I finished that class. I am now training to teach DVT MRT. So let's get that out of the way. Also, that is true. I did have a charge. I lived in the state of Minnesota for 11 days with a woman that I met. And yes, that was all false, which absolutely has nothing to do with this. Let me see what else. Her screaming at me, her trip to the Whidbey Island, or which island ever she mentioned, that was something she invited me on. She immediately starts screaming at me in my car because I checked a message wondering if it was from my daughter who'd recently had a miscarriage. And she screamed at me that I asked for 24 hours. You can't even stay off your phone for 24 hours. And I said, oh no. So I turned around and I said, I'm not going now. So she took someone else on that trip. Then out of the goodness of my heart, I forgave her. And I thought, okay, maybe this is an isolated incident. And I did take her to Menlo to the cemetery. It was Memorial Day weekend. And she had told me she does like seeing old headstones and such. And I said, well, there's tons of them there. I didn't take the back roads anywhere. She wanted to stop at another cemetery that was just outside of Chehalis. And I said, yeah, we can take the Chehalis loop home. We stopped at that cemetery. Then we headed on. We got onto I-5. Something else pissed her off. And she was screaming at me, shut the fuck up, Jonna! The top of her lungs in my face. I'm trying to drive on the interstate with Memorial Day traffic. My phone was in the thing. And I said, oh no. And I went to grab it. I said, I am not doing this. And then she knocked it out of my hands because I told her I was calling for law enforcement. And then she starts taking her seatbelt off. I said, if you don't want to be in this car, I can drop you off, but please put your seatbelt on. And I was not going 80. I was going 70 or 75 because it's 70. My speed, what's it called when you set your speed? But it's 70 miles an hour, you know, the Chehalis. When I got home, she wanted things out of the house. She had changed into shorts before we left. And I said, I will go in there and get them. Oh no. She was up on the porch, yanking at my door to get in. I don't live in a neighborhood where I've ever seen law enforcement. So I wasn't about to have that happen. So I let her in. And then she's in there, John is a liar, blah, blah, blah. I went up the stairs. I said, can you guys please call law enforcement? And they came down. And I asked her to leave out of my house 3 times. She's still in there wandering around. And my roommates just kept walking. You need to leave. We're calling the police, and walked her out the front door. As far as the glass orbs, she's welcome to have them back. I was not holding on to them. She gave them to me the day I was helping her move. She gifted them to me. If she would like them back, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I have not stalked her. I don't stalk my mom. I told her, I said, I'll show you my high school and my childhood home. And the high school's here. I lived a half a block from the high school growing up. We drove by my mom's house. And I was very sad because my mom and I don't have a relationship. And she said, oh, your mom was sitting outside. I said, she was? I didn't see her. But we kept driving. We didn't stop. I don't stalk my mom. She lives in Menlo. I live in Olympia. I mean, yeah, this is a performance. She was recently in Superior Court for strangling a woman. And these people I've been talking to, one reached out to me, scared to death because I had brought Cal's name up. And she said, oh my God.
The respondent's testimony mirrors many of the same tactics, but from the opposite direction. Rather than simply defending against allegations, she launches her own attack on credibility. This creates a fascinating courtroom dynamic.
I went on a date with this woman, and I have never been scared as I was in my life going on a date. And then the other gal told me to please be careful, stay away from her, call the police if I needed. And that's that. So yeah, I just want to live my life in peace. I'm sorry that I ever met this woman. She has a lot of mental health issues. She got fired from DOC for the strangulation case. So she's not out on disability just to be out on disability. She was let go because she allegedly tried to strangle the last person before myself. So knowing this from this last person, I wasn't there. I don't know if that happened or not. But the gal that when I brought up Cal's name, she's like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to hang out with you if you're friends with her, because I was scared to death when I went out on a date with that woman. So that's number 2. And this other gal is number 3. So yeah, there's that.
All right. Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to hear from me, Your Honor?
I don't think so. The answer should no. I don't need to hear.
Thank you. May I ask a question while you're looking at that?
You may ask a question. Go ahead.
If I need to file an order against her now that I found this new information that she's reaching out to people in my life on Facebook when I have her blocked, and she's slandering me. It's not 2 people, it's 1, because the woman reached out to me and said she's highly uncomfortable and that I should file for slander orders. And so should I do that through the court and get that information today?
There is no such thing as a slander order.
Or anti-harassment, I guess.
Well, it's anti-harassment, but it has to be threatening. The court does not tell people to clean up their language when describing somebody else. So people can say all the bad things they want about somebody. We don't have any ability to regulate that.
That's why I
am not trying to harass anyone. These women are warning me.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I think I have a sense of what's going on here. So I think I've heard enough. I was just answering a question.
And for the record, I do not want anything back. I want no contact.
All right. So listening to the 2 of you, I think one thing jumps out at me, which is that neither one of you wants the other to have any contact with you. So that's very clear to me. And the events that happened on the 24th or 25th, depending on which day it was, and I don't necessarily find that the date is determinative here in my evaluation of the facts in this case. Breakups of relationships can be, and whether, even without regard to the depth of the relationship, breakups in a relationship, friends or partners or whatever that may be, can be hard, and people react in certain ways. And that's my perception as to what's happened here. So I'm not going to enter a protection order in this case, but I want to make a little record that it's very clear to me that you each are asking the other not to have any contact. So going forward, I would expect you to each comply with the other's request, and to the degree that you don't, the other is welcome to file a petition with the court saying, hey, we had this whole hearing. We made it very clear to each other that we don't want to have contact, and yet in spite of that, there's been contact. So I just want to make a record of that. We can deal with this down the road if somebody feels like they need to, but I'm hoping that you both realize that this is not a relationship that's going forward, and you each want to move in your own directions away from each other. And that seems entirely appropriate.
The judge's ruling reveals what he found most important, and it was not the competing accusations. His focus shifts toward a simple reality both parties accidentally proved. Neither wants contact. That observation becomes the foundation of the decision.
So I'm going to enter a denial that reflects that, and hope that two of you can live up to that. And Ms. Lamerson is in the courtroom. We'll give her a copy of this. And Ms. Wesley, do we email it to her, or she gets it on the website? It'll be on the website later today if you want to get a copy of it.
So is it decided there's no more questions or anything?
Yeah, I've decided it. So
fantastic.
I've given you the basis of my ruling, and go forward and hope the two of you not have any further contact with each other. All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
You can let you know when it's ready.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Your Honor. Could my mother go to the bathroom?
Sure. And Mr. Fosnot, why don't you come on up and have a seat right here?
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Wagner, if you'll activate your audio and video, please. Or Mr. Wagner, I'm sorry. And Ms. Lamerson? And Mr. Wagner, you indicate that Mr. Fosnot lives next door to you at his mother's house?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And you had told Mr. Fosnot you didn't want him engaging in landscaping actions on your property, and you told him not to come on, and since then you said he's been verbally harassing you. Is that in essence what's going on?
So the whole self-proclaimed neighborhood maintenance, yard maintenance person guy, Mr. Fosnot, has been added since I moved in there, and it's absolutely escalated since the beginning of April. He came over and asked that my landlord had asked him to do yard maintenance if the tenant doesn't mind. And I said, I do mind. I do not want it. And he has taken it up on himself to go into my property, open the gates, go in there, let himself in and out. He's been on my front lawn. He has removed all the beauty bark, replaced it with rock. There's an HOA. I have his muddy handprints all over the side of my place. It's gotten to a point where like I've yelled at him to stop. I work in a manufacturing environment 10 hours a day. I have to go to work at 4:30 in the morning. He's out there with his lawn equipment sometimes till 9, 10 o'clock at night. In the meantime, this had stopped. He had apologized. He had said, "Hey, I'm going to be better about this." And then right after that, he turns around and does it again. And it gotten to a point where it seems like he holds off with his yard work until I get home from work. And then he starts it just to get a rise out of me. It stopped for a little while. Then he's got some mental issues. And then he began heavily drinking again, started it again. And I approached him. I said, "Oh, we're back to this." And that's when he got aggressive towards me. And he's like, "Listen, I like you, but you have no right here. You just rent here. This isn't your home. I do whatever I want." And he's been cursing at me, calling me names. And at this point, I called the police. The police came and talked to him. Nothing changed. He then turned around to start threatening me. He started saying, I don't know if I can say this, he's going to kick my A, you know? He was on my front lawn, drunk, throwing bottles at the grass. He's like, "Come out here. We'll solve this right now. I'll kick your ass. Daddy gonna teach you a lesson." I called the cops again. They came. It got to a point where he's like outside in my alley screaming at me. I have this all on video. I tried to turn it all in, but the gentleman at the counter said he can't. First, he told me I had to bring in a flash drive, so I brought this SD card in, and then he tells me, "Oh, we can't use that. None of the court has SD drives." So then I ran out of time. I tried to get the police reports. The police never gave me anything. Then he's out there basically, test me, try me again, call the cops. He's half naked in my driveway in front of my garage door. I opened my garage door to go cook dinner on my Blackstone. He's standing right there. He won't go away. He's threatening me. He's screaming at me. He's belligerently drunk almost every day. The last 2 weeks have been nice and quiet because we've had this order in place. But when this order first got served, he's already violated that order within 5 hours. He went to jail. 5 days later, he's violated the order again. And then we had a court hearing, and unfortunately, I was provided the wrong information by the court office, and I wasn't able to attend, so this got dropped. I'm trying to live my life in peace and not have this person constantly harass me, constantly. The whole neighborhood had enough of it. And then doing the yard work for everyone, that's one thing. But when I tell you no, you're going to start threatening me? Absolutely not. This needs to end. This has to stop.
The second case immediately feels different because it revolves around physical boundaries rather than personal relationships. The petitioner presents a straightforward complaint centered on unwanted presence, repeated intrusion, and escalating confrontations.
All right. So for your information, the case wasn't dropped. There's a hearing on the 16th of June at 10 o'clock in the morning.
No, that's not the one that I'm saying was dropped. The first temporary order was dropped 2 weeks ago.
Okay, there's a criminal charge that has a hearing on the 16th of June.
Yes, there's a criminal charge that is for when he violated the order the first time.
Okay, I just want to make sure you understood that.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And that criminal order, I believe, doesn't state no trespassing onto my property. That's why I went and refiled it, because the one that got dropped did state do not trespass. And he likes to do that. With the reasoning that I only rent there and I have no rights. Well, it's not his place. The police told him if I say no, it's no. He's argued with the police about it. The man is a danger to himself and the public. He's literally asked the police officer to tase him and to shoot him. I have that all on video.
Okay. All right. Mr. Foston?
Yes, sir.
Anything you want to say?
No,
honestly, I have nothing to say. I mean, I just try to help the public, and I helped the whole block. And he did tell me, no, do not. I don't want you coming over here. And I didn't mean to, but then I accidentally stepped on to his property. Then this is where we're at.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you. No. Yeah. Thank you.
I just try to help. I try to help people.
Okay.
I really do. I mean, I cleaned his coolers out for him for nothing. I don't want no money. I don't get paid for it. I just do it just to help people. Anyway. I do want to add one more thing. I will not step on his property. I will not. No, I'm not a violent person. I've never hurt anybody in my life.
So where do you live in regards to?
I live with my mother.
Right. So right next door to
Yes. So
Mr. Whitehair.
our property, yes. So we have a block that has about 5 houses, right? Okay. And I mow the whole block. I put stone down all for free, all on my own dime. Try to help people.
Okay.
And then, boy, and it's funny because at first, okay, so Jason Barrett is the landlord, the owner of that property. And he said, do whatever you want. And I asked him before. He said, go ahead, do whatever you want. But he did tell me before, I'm not going to lie, he did tell me I don't want it because we got an argument. I just bought him $30 worth of marijuana. I mean, I gave him free weed for his birthday. Then I gave him, oh my God, I helped him so many.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry. I'm getting a little excited.
The final section highlights a mistake that appears frequently in neighbor disputes. The respondent tries to defend himself through intentions rather than boundaries. He repeatedly explains that he was helping, assisting, improving property, and acting generously. The judge never seems particularly interested in those explanations. The reason is simple. Good intentions do not override another person's right to control access to their property. Once someone clearly says no, the legal analysis changes. What makes this hearing especially revealing is the respondent's eventual self-awareness. His admissions regarding alcohol and personal struggles likely explain why the judge maintains a measured tone instead of treating him as a malicious actor. Still, the order is granted because the court is protecting boundaries, not judging character. The ruling recognizes a distinction many people miss. Someone can be well-intentioned and still create a situation that requires legal limits.